Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind howling around you, carrying whispers of a story so ancient it feels like it was written in the stars. What if I told you that thousands of years ago, a man named Isaiah saw something so vivid, so precise, that it feels like he was looking straight into our world today? Armies marching across deserts, nations rising against one another, and a city caught in the crosshairs of history. A city called Jerusalem. A conflict that echoes with names we hear in headlines now: Israel, Iran, and the powers of the East. Was it just a vision? Or was it a warning, sealed in parchment, waiting for us to open it? Welcome to the Untold Scriptures, where we dive into the stories that have shaped the soul of humanity. Stories that don't just belong to the past, but speak to us right here, right now. Today, we're stepping into the world of Isaiah, a prophet who didn't just see the future, he felt it, lived it, and carried its weight in his bones. His words aren't locked in dusty scrolls. They're alive, burning with meaning, and they might just change the way you see everything: war, faith, history, and even yourself. So, grab a seat, take a deep breath, and let's walk through a story that's been waiting centuries to reach you. If this journey speaks to your heart, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Your support keeps these forgotten truths alive. Picture Jerusalem, long before skyscrapers or satellites, when the city was a cluster of stone walls and flickering torches. It's early, too early for the morning prayers, too late for the night watch. The temple courtyard is silent, the air heavy with the scent of cold stone and olive oil from yesterday's offerings. A man steps into this stillness: Isaiah, son of Amoz. His footsteps echo, each one like a question daring to disturb the quiet. He's not a king, not a warrior, just a man who's about to meet something no one could prepare for. He stops at the altar, closes his eyes, and breathes. Nothing in this moment hints at what's coming: no wind, no sound, no sign. Just a man and his God. Then it happens. A warmth blooms in his chest, sudden, like a spark catching dry wood. His heart races, pounding as if it wants to escape his body. He tries to open his eyes, but a light, blinding, unbearable, forces them shut. His knees buckle. Not by choice, but because his body can no longer carry him. He falls, trembling, and a voice speaks. Not a sound you hear with your ears, but a vibration that shakes every part of him: his fears, his hopes, his very soul. Isaiah, it says, son of Amoz, listen. Tears stream down his face. Is it terror? Is it awe? He can't tell. Lord, he whispers, what do you want of me? The silence that follows feels like it stretches across millennia. Then the voice returns, steady, unshakable. Today, I set your destiny apart. Your eyes will see what others refuse. Your mouth will speak what they cannot bear. Isaiah's hands clutch his chest. He knows, deep in his core, that nothing will ever be simple again. I'm not worthy, he murmurs. My lips are unclean. I'm only dust. But the light doesn't fade. It grows, filling the temple until the columns seem to burn, until the tapestries stir without wind. And then he sees them, beings with no human name, their wings covering their faces, their voices splitting the air with a song that feels like it could shatter stone. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, they sing. The whole earth is full of his glory. The ground shakes. The doors groan. Isaiah's heart feels like it's breaking, not from fear, but from an awe so deep it strips away every trace of pride. One of the beings moves, swift as flame, and takes a glowing coal from the altar with tongs. It approaches him, the heat slicing through the air like a blade. Isaiah wants to run, but his body won't move. Your iniquity shall be removed, the voice says. Your sin shall be atoned for. The coal touches his lips. It burns not just his flesh, but everything he thought he was. Doubt, fear, limitation, all consumed in that single, searing moment. When it's over, he collapses, gasping like a man who's just broken the surface after a dive too deep. He lifts his face, and the light softens, but it's no less real. Whom shall I send? The voice asks. Who will go for us? The silence now is different, heavy with the weight of choice. Isaiah feels it, the cost of saying yes, the cost of carrying a truth no one wants to hear. But he knows this moment seals everything, the past, the present, the future. His voice, barely a whisper, breaks the stillness. Here am I, send me. The wings of the beings withdraw. The light fades to a gentle glow. The temple, moments ago trembling with divine fire, is calm again. But Isaiah is not. He'll never be the same. A priest, half hidden behind a column, saw part of it. His eyes are wide, his voice gone. What did you see? He whispers. Why does your face shine like that? Isaiah breathes deep, his voice steadier than it's ever been. I saw the glory that upholds the world, he says. And I heard the call that cannot be disobeyed. He steps out of the temple as the sun rises over Jerusalem. The city is waking, merchants shouting, children running, guards pacing the walls. But no dawn can match what burns in his heart. He knows what's coming: mockery, exile, maybe worse. He knows most won't listen. But he also knows it doesn't matter. When you've heard the voice of the Eternal, you don't owe explanations to men. This is where our story begins, not with a prophet's triumph, but with his burden. A burden to speak truths that will echo across centuries, truths about a city, a people, and a conflict that feels eerily familiar to us today. Let's walk through Jerusalem with Isaiah. The streets are alive, but there's a tension in the air, like the city's holding its breath. People rush to reinforce gates, fill water jars, or just sit on their steps, staring at the horizon with eyes that have seen too much. Isaiah moves slowly, his cloak stirring dust with every step. His gaze cuts deeper than the stone towers or the newly driven beams. He sees what no one else dares to face, a shadow gathering, not just over the city, but over the hearts of its people. He stops at the valley gate, where elders argue in sharp, nervous voices. If we surrender, we'll be slaves forever, one snaps, his staff striking the ground. If we fight, we'll lose everything. Another counters. A third, his voice low, almost broken, murmurs, there'll be no Jerusalem either way. Isaiah's presence silences them. They turn, one by one, their faces tight with fear and defiance. You're not just debating defenses, he says, his voice calm but heavy. You're debating your hearts. It's not just men besieging you, it's the Most High, weighing each soul like wheat on a threshing floor. The eldest elder tries to hold his dignity. Is there nothing we can do? He asks. Isaiah's eyes seem to pierce through flesh. You could have listened, he says, no hatred in his tone, only truth. When the temple doors were open for repentance, not just rituals, the man looks away, unable to bear the weight of those words. A younger voice breaks the silence. Is there any hope at all? Isaiah sighs, the bitter smell of distant fires carried on the wind. For those who fear the name, he says, there is always hope. But for those who think they can deceive the judge, not even a memory will remain. He walks on, through streets heavy with memory, victories sung in psalms, betrayals whispered in secret chambers. Children born into debts they didn't choose. Jerusalem isn't just stone on stone, it's a living record of everything its people loved more than truth. In the market, a merchant lays out fabrics, his voice strained with forced cheer. From Tyre, he calls, who knows if we'll have this tomorrow? His eyes meet Isaiah's, and his smile dies. Without a word, he closes his bundle. No bargain can postpone what's coming. On the northern wall, the captain of the guard watches the enemy camp, tents sprouting like weeds. Siege engines take shape, hammers ringing against iron. He sees Isaiah and draws a deep breath. Prophet, are you here to measure our defenses? Isaiah's hand rests on the parapet, feeling the cold stone as if it holds the city's story. No, he says. I came to see how much faith remains inside. The captain doesn't answer. He follows Isaiah's gaze to the horizon, where enemy torches flicker like eyes. We won't win, will we? He whispers. Isaiah's voice is steady. Victory doesn't belong to those who trust only in walls. The city braces itself. Women wash clothes in silence. Children play unaware of the storm brewing. Isaiah stops, breathes, and sees not just the siege of spears and walls, but a siege of pride, denial, and hardened hearts. Jerusalem hangs in a moment between repentance and ruin, and every soul must choose. As the sun sets, the temple's summit glows, but no one is ready to accept what's coming, not even those who claim to believe. This is the world Isaiah walks through, a world on the edge of judgment. But it's not just his world. It's ours. The conflicts he saw, the nations he named, they're not trapped in the past. They're in our headlines, our fears, our questions. Could a man from thousands of years ago really have seen the tensions between Israel and Iran? Could his words carry a warning for us? Stick with me. Because this story isn't just about an ancient prophet. It's about what happens when we ignore the truth and what happens when we dare to listen. If you're feeling the weight of this, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep going. Let's step deeper into this story, into the dust and shadows of a city that thought it could outrun its fate. Jerusalem's walls still stand, but they're trembling not just from the threat of armies, but from the weight of choices made long before the first spear was raised. Isaiah walks these streets, his cloak catching the wind, his eyes seeing what no one else dares to acknowledge. The city is alive, but it's a fragile kind of alive. Like a man who knows the fever's coming, but still hopes to outlast it. The market is quieter now, the usual clamor of merchants and buyers muted by a creeping dread. A woman folds her shawl, her hands shaking as she glances at the horizon. A child kicks a stone, unaware that each laugh is a fleeting gift. Isaiah passes by and people lower their eyes. Not out of respect, but because his presence feels like a mirror they don't want to face. He stops at a well, where men are hauling up water with the urgency that borders on panic. They're coming. One mutters, his voice low, as if saying it aloud might make it real. The Assyrians, the Persians, who can tell any more? Isaiah doesn't answer right away. He dips his hand into the water, letting it slip through his fingers. It's not just armies, he says finally. It's the hand of the Most High, measuring what you've built your lives on. The men pause, their buckets heavy in their hands. One, younger, with a face still soft with hope, steps forward. But why us, he asks. Why Jerusalem? Why now? Isaiah's gaze is steady, almost gentle. But his words cut. Because this city is the heart of history, he says. Every choice you make here echoes to the ends of the earth. And you've chosen pride over humility, wealth over wisdom, walls over faith. The young man looks away, his jaw tight. He wants to argue, but the truth in Isaiah's voice is like a stone he can't lift. Let's move to the northern gate, where the air smells of iron and smoke. The captain of the guard is pacing, his armor clanking with every step. He's seen the enemy's tents, their numbers growing like a storm cloud. He spots Isaiah climbing the steps and calls out, "Prophet, what do you see out there?" Isaiah leans against the parapet, his eyes scanning the valley. "I see more than men and weapons," he says. "I see a cycle turning, one that began when your fathers chose to trust in their own strength." The captain grips his spear, his knuckles white. "And what's the end of it?" he asks. Isaiah's voice is quiet but unshakable. "The end is what you choose now, repentance or ruin." Down in the city, the elders are gathered again, their voices sharper now, edged with fear. "We can negotiate," one insists, his hands gesturing wildly. "Offer them gold, land, anything to spare us." Another shakes his head. "They don't want gold. They want us broken." Isaiah steps into their circle, uninvited but impossible to ignore. "You think this is about treaties," he says. "This is about your hearts. You've built walls to keep out enemies. But the real enemy is within, your pride, your refusal to bow." The elders shift uncomfortably. One, his beard streaked with gray, snaps, "And what would you have us do?" "Kneel and beg while they tear down our gates." Isaiah's eyes don't waver. "Kneel before the one who can save you," he says. "The gates won't matter if your souls are found wanting." The sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the city. Isaiah walks on, past homes where families huddle, whispering prayers or curses. He stops at a small house where an old woman sits, her hands clasped around a worn amulet. She looks up at him, her eyes hollow. "Will it be enough?" she asks, holding up the charm. Isaiah kneels beside her. No amulet can save what's already lost, he says gently. But a heart turned to truth can find refuge. She clutches the amulet tighter, not ready to let go of the only thing she's trusted for years. Sometimes, pain is easier than change. Night falls, and the city grows quieter, but it's not the calm of peace. It's the stillness before a storm. Isaiah climbs to the temple terrace, where his disciples wait, their faces pale in the torchlight. The youngest, barely more than a boy, clutches a scroll, his fingers stained with ink. "Master," he whispers, "they say the Persians are rising. Armies gathering in the east, buying weapons, moving like a tide." Isaiah nods, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the first stars are appearing. "It's not just rumor," he says. "It's the cycle waking again. Pride calls to pride, and violence answers violence." The disciple's voice trembles. "Why us? Why does it always come back to this city?" Isaiah turns to him, his face softened by a sorrow that feels older than the stones beneath their feet. "Because Jerusalem is where God weighs the hearts of men," he says. "What happens here shapes the world. And what's coming now, Persia, the nations, the fire, it's not just war. It's a reckoning." The disciple scribbles furiously, trying to capture every word. He pauses, his pen hovering. "Will they listen this time?" he asks. Isaiah's silence is answer enough. He knows the truth is a heavy burden, one most will refuse until it's too late. Let's pause here for a moment. Think about it, what Isaiah's seeing, what he's saying, it's not just about Jerusalem thousands of years ago. It's about us. About the choices we make when the world feels like it's teetering on the edge. Have you ever felt that weight, that sense that something bigger is at play? That's what Isaiah carried every day. And he kept speaking, even when no one wanted to hear. If this is hitting you, if you're feeling that connection across time, drop a comment below. Tell us what this story stirs in you. And let's keep walking with Isaiah, because the storm is just beginning. The stars are out now, blanketing Jerusalem in a fragile light. The city feels smaller, as if it's shrinking under the weight of what's coming. Isaiah stands on the temple terrace, his cloak catching the night breeze. His disciples are close, their breaths shallow, their eyes darting to the horizon where the first campfires of the enemy flicker like fallen stars. The air smells of dust and fear, and somewhere in the distance, a low drum beat begins, 3 slow beats, a pause, then another. It's not just sound. It's a pulse, sinking into the bones of everyone who hears it. Isaiah's oldest disciple, his hands gnarled from years of writing, steps forward. "Master," he says, his voice steady but heavy, "they say the Persians are moving. Thousands of them, with banners no one recognizes. Is this what you saw?" Isaiah doesn't turn. His eyes are locked on the east, where the darkness seems to pulse with something alive. "It is," he says. "But it's not just Persia. It's every nation that pride has stirred, every heart that's answered arrogance with arrogance." The disciple nods, scribbling on his scroll, the ink smudging under his trembling fingers. "And what do we do?" he asks. Isaiah's voice is soft, almost a whisper. "You write. You bear witness. Because one day, they'll ask who warned them. Down in the city, the streets are emptying. Families bar their doors, mothers hush their children, and the guards on the walls grip their spears tighter, as if holding on to courage itself." Isaiah walks through this quiet, his steps deliberate, each one a reminder that time is running out. He passes a group of young men, their faces hard with defiance. "Prophet," one calls out, his voice sharp, "why do you speak of doom? Why not hope?" Isaiah stops, his gaze meeting the man's. "Hope is not in denying what's coming," he says. "Hope is in choosing what you'll do when it arrives." The young man scoffs. But there's a crack in his bravado, a flicker of doubt. Isaiah doesn't press him. He moves on, climbing the steps to the western tower. From here, he can see the valley, dotted with enemy fires that seem to multiply with every passing hour. The captain of the guard is there, his face etched with exhaustion. "They're closer now," he says, not looking at Isaiah. "Their drums are louder." What does it mean? Isaiah places a hand on the stone parapet, feeling its cold strength. "It means the hour is near," he says. "Not just for battle, but for truth." Every drumbeat is a call to choose, pride or repentance, fear or faith. The captain shakes his head, his voice low. I don't know if I can choose faith when I see that. He gestures to the valley, where the fires burn brighter, their glow painting the walls of Jerusalem red. Isaiah follows his gaze. Faith isn't in what you see, he says. It's in what you trust when all you see is fire. The captain doesn't respond. He turns back to his men, shouting orders that sound more desperate than commanding. Isaiah stays on the tower alone now, the wind carrying the scent of smoke and metal from the enemy camp. Let's shift to the temple courtyard, where a small crowd has gathered. They're not soldiers or elders, just ordinary people, their faces worn by worry. A woman steps forward, her hands clutching a shawl. Prophet, she says, her voice trembling, is there no way to stop this? No prayer, no offering? Isaiah kneels to meet her eyes. There is always a way, he says, but it's not in offerings or walls. It's in turning your heart back to the one who made it. She nods, tears spilling. But she doesn't let go of her shawl, as if it's the only thing holding her together. The drums grow louder, their rhythm steady, unrelenting. Isaiah climbs back to the temple terrace, where his disciples wait. The youngest, his scroll clutched tight, whispers, Master, what if we're too late? What if the choice is already made? Isaiah's face softens, but his voice is firm. It's never too late to choose truth, he says. But the longer you wait, the heavier the cost. The disciple writes, his pen scratching against the parchment, capturing words that feel like they're burning into his soul. As the night deepens, the city feels like it's holding its breath. The stars are hidden now, swallowed by clouds rolling in from the east. Isaiah stands alone, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He sees more than fires, more than armies. He sees a cycle turning, one that began long before these walls were built, one that will outlast them. Persia is rising, yes, but it's not just Persia. It's every nation stirred by pride, every heart that's forgotten the weight of truth. And Jerusalem, this city at the center of history, is where it all converges. Let's take a moment to feel this. Imagine you're standing on those walls, hearing those drums, knowing something unstoppable is coming. What would you choose, defiance or surrender? Pride or humility? Isaiah's words aren't just for Jerusalem, they're for us, for every moment we face a truth we'd rather ignore. If this is resonating with you, if you're feeling the weight of the story, hit that like button and share it. Let's keep following Isaiah, because the fire is closer now, and the truth is about to burn brighter. Morning breaks over Jerusalem, but it's not the kind of dawn that brings hope. The sky is heavy, clouds pressing down like a judgment waiting to fall. Isaiah is already awake, sitting in the shadow of the temple, his eyes open as if he's been keeping watch over the city's dreams. A sentinel runs to him, breathless, pointing to the valley. They're here, he gasps. The armies. They're coming. Isaiah doesn't move. It is them, he says simply. Those who were meant to come. The sentinel stammers, how many? Isaiah lifts his face to the sky, now streaked with pale light. As many as suffice, he says. For it's not the number that matters, but the purpose. The city is waking now. But it's a restless waking. Markets stay empty, gates stay barred, children cling to their mothers. Isaiah walks to the main gate, where the commander of the guard is poring over maps, his face blank with despair. Where do they come from? The commander asks, not looking up. Isaiah places a hand on the parchment. From every place, he says. The east and west unite against the city, like two arms of the same judgment. The commander closes the map, his breathing heavy. Then there was nothing we could do, he whispers. Isaiah's voice is calm, almost too calm. You did everything, he says. Everything that draws the hand of God. The first enemy standard appears around the bend in the road, a black cloth with a lion. Its eyes like fire. The sound of sandals, metal, and voices grows, a rising tide that fills the valley. Princes climb the walls, their faces pale. One shouts to Isaiah, "Are these the armies you foretold?" The prophet doesn't look away from the valley. They are, he says, and each carries the seed of something greater. The drums begin at nightfall, their rhythm a deep, relentless thunder. Women fall to their knees in the market, clutching their children. Counselors in the palace exchange glances, knowing no alliance can stop this. Young guards on the walls confess their fear in silent looks. Isaiah turns to his disciples, his eyes burning with unshed tears. Right, he orders. The Lord summons nations from afar. Their warriors come in wrath, and their hearts know no mercy. The scribe's pen trembles, but he writes, then whispers, will there be peace? Isaiah breathes in the scent of evening, mixed with hay and the sweat of approaching armies. Afterward, he says, there will be truth. The campfires light the valley, painting Jerusalem's walls red, as if the fire has already begun. Isaiah stands on the tower, unmoving, his disciples too afraid to ask what he sees. The drums sound again, and even the shadows seem to hold their breath. When you hear this sound, Isaiah says, his voice low, remember you are warned. Every seed sown in pride blooms in the hour of siege. A disciple sobs quietly, clutching his scroll like a lifeline. The legions advance. Their march slow but unstoppable, a storm ready to prove no wall can protect a heart hardened by pride. Let's step back for a second. This isn't just a story about ancient armies or a prophet's warnings. It's about us, about the moments when we know something's coming, when the drums of our own choices echo in our lives. Isaiah saw this moment, not just for Jerusalem, but for every generation that faces the same question. Will you listen, or will you wait until the fire's at your door? If this is hitting home, drop a comment, share this story, and let's keep going. The truth is getting closer, and so is the fire. Dawn creeps over Jerusalem, but it's a solemn light, touching a city that feels like it's waiting for its last breath. The temple stands on Zion, a witness to ages, its bronze gates gleaming in the torchlight. Isaiah climbs the stairs to the upper court, his steps slow, as if each one carries the weight of centuries. His disciples follow, their faces tight with questions they don't dare ask. The youngest looks at the temple, its ancient stones glowing in the twilight. This is the heart of everything, isn't it? He whispers. Isaiah pauses, his eyes on the gates. It is, he says. Zion is where past, present, and future meet. Soldiers line the eastern wall, their spears raised, their faces shadowed by torchlight. They watch Isaiah pass, his presence a reminder that prophecy doesn't sleep. He stops at the last parapet, where the commander of the guard waits, his helmet in his hands. They're ready, the commander says, his voice thick with dread. Everything is prepared for the attack. Isaiah's gaze is fixed on the valley, where enemy fires burn like fallen stars. Ready they are, he says. But they don't know why they came. The commander swallows hard. They came for glory, for gold, he tries. Isaiah turns, his face lit by the torches. They came because God allowed it, he says, to weigh hearts, to fulfill cycles, and to remind the world that Zion is the center of everything. A thick mist rolls in, covering the valley like a sea of gray. The young scribe shivers. It's like we're outside of time, he says, like the world's paused to see what happens here. Isaiah nods. That's exactly what it is, he says. What happens in Zion echoes to the ends of the earth. The older disciple clutches his scroll. Will there be any Jerusalem left to tell the story? He asks. Isaiah breathes in the chill mist. There will always be a remnant, he says. God didn't write the city's name to be forgotten. As the fog lifts, the enemy appears, spears, standards, war chariots moving as one. Isaiah sees not just an army but the fulfillment of his words, spoken on nights of scorn and laughter. Right, he tells the scribe. The Lord has gathered the nations against Zion, not for its end, but to reveal who will remain when all is shaken. The scribe's tears fall onto the parchment. Is there nothing more we can do? He asks. Isaiah's eyes burn. You can choose, he says, between arrogance and repentance, between fear and trust. The drums break the silence, rolling through the streets like a caged storm. Isaiah lifts his arms. Zion, he cries. This is the day you'll know who sustains you and who tests you. And from the east, a new force rises, Persia, ancient and slow, waking like a beast from centuries of sleep. Rumors have become reality. Their armies are moving, their banners rising. Isaiah knew this was coming, not just as war but as a divine summons, a moment when every heart must face the truth. This is where the story turns, where the fire gets closer, where choices can't be avoided. Isaiah is standing on the edge of history, and so are we. What would you do in this moment? Would you cling to what's familiar, or would you dare to face the truth? If this story's stirring something in you, hit that subscribe button and share it. Let's keep following Isaiah. Because the fire's not just coming, it's here. The fire comes first as a spark, a single torch hurled over the southern Palisades. It catches, and within moments, the flames roar, climbing the wooden structures like a living thing. The wind from the east carries sparks, as if the sky itself is fueling the inferno. Isaiah stands before the main gate, his cloak billowing, the glare reflecting in his eyes. He doesn't flinch. Behind him, the scribe falls to his knees, his scroll pressed against his chest. "Master," he murmurs, "it's happening." Isaiah's voice is heavy, each word like stone. It is. Not because God delights in destruction, but because no seed remains buried forever. The commander of the guard runs to them, dust and sweat streaking his face. "We have to fight back," he shouts. "We have to stop it before it spreads." Isaiah turns slowly. "Can you quench flames with swords?" he asks. "Can you bargain with the wind?" The commander falls silent, his chest heaving. The fire moves fast, devouring homes, cracking wood like bones. The temple bell tolls, a desperate sound mixing lament and confession. The youngest prince, shouting orders from the tower, drops his sword, his hands shaking. "Why didn't we stop sooner?" he cries. Isaiah's face, lit by the flames, is both light and shadow. "Because you thought the warnings were metaphors," he says. "But today, everything is real." The scribe, his voice breaking, asks, "What should I write?" Isaiah's hand rests on his shoulder, tender but firm. "Write that the fire came not for lack of warning, but for refusal to listen." A thunderous crash echoes, a wall collapsing, the sound spreading like a war drum. Men and women run, carrying children, their screams mingling with the roar of the flames. Isaiah stands unmoving, his feet rooted to the ground. "Thus is fulfilled what was spoken," he says. "Thus is revealed what so many called a fable." The fire reaches the gate, sparks scattering across the square. Women scream, children cry, and Isaiah lifts his arms to the sky. "Lord," he cries, "let the humble find refuge." The flames climb the cedar pillars, consuming carvings and tapestries, the symbols of victory burning alongside the portraits of kings. The scribe, sobbing, lifts his head. What remains when all turns to ash? Isaiah's gaze is fixed on the horizon. "Truth remains," he says. "When everything is consumed, what endures is what was real." The fire burns through the night, leaving silence in its wake, not the silence of peace, but of a city that's exhaled its last breath. Isaiah stands before the burned temple, its gates twisted, scarred by flames. His disciples think he might collapse, his shoulders sagging under the weight of history. But he doesn't. The scribe, gasping through the soot, whispers, "And now, what remains?" Isaiah breathes slowly. "What remains is what was always hidden," he says. Fire doesn't destroy truth, it burns away what concealed it. The youngest prince emerges from behind a broken column, his face like a child's. "Is this the hour you spoke of?" he asks. Isaiah's eyes shine with tears. "This is the hour," he says. "The wind is rising, and it will tear every veil." From the eastern wall, a sentinel shouts, pointing to the valley where a new column of dust rises. Not fire this time, but an army disciplined, unhurried, like a verdict walking on human legs. The scribe moans another siege. Isaiah's hand steadies him. "They never left," he says. "They're part of the cycle that began when pride became a throne." The prince collapses, his hands pressed to his temples. "Why didn't we believe when there was time?" Isaiah's touch is gentle, but his words are heavy. "Because lies are sweeter than truth," he says. "Pride is easier than humility." The wind rises, carrying the scent of churned earth. The scribe's scroll rolls across the pavement, stopping at Isaiah's feet. "Right," Isaiah says. When the veil falls, no one will say they were not warned. The banners in the valley wave like pale flames, and every face in Jerusalem knows what's coming next can't be stopped. This is the moment when everything changes, when the fire strips away illusions and leaves only truth. Isaiah's standing in the ashes, but he's not defeated. He's pointing to something new. Something possible even in ruin. If this story's gripping you, if you're seeing the parallels to our world, hit that like button and share it. Let's keep going because the cycle isn't over yet. The wind stops suddenly, as if the world itself has paused. The embers in Jerusalem's streets release thin threads of smoke, rising into a clear sky. Isaiah opens his eyes, and his disciples feel it, a moment that cuts time in two, separating what was from what's beginning. The prince, kneeling in the dust, lifts his face. "Is it over?" he asks, his voice barely audible. Isaiah turns, his eyes clear, as if fire and shadow have been washed away. "Nothing ends," he says. "It only changes its name. What you called calamity is the beginning of revelation." From the southern wall, a sentinel shouts, pointing to the horizon. New columns of men and standards appear, not just Persian, but others, with symbols no one recognizes. Peoples who were once distant, unaware of Jerusalem's struggles, are now here, gathered as if summoned by an unseen hand. The scribe staggers to the parapet, his scroll clutched tight. "What is this?" he murmurs. Isaiah breathes deep. "It's the cycle completing," he says. "The harvest of what was sown before any of us were born." The commander of the guard approaches, his face stained with soot and tears. "They say Iran has risen," he says. "Alliances no one foresaw." Isaiah's voice is steady. "I foresaw it," he says. "This isn't just a war of men. It's a summons, written before your thrones existed." The prince struggles to his feet. "Then everything that burned was just preparation?" Isaiah nods. "Every kingdom thinks it can write its own story," he says. "But in the end, all face the same horizon." The scribe's pen trembles. "Shall I write, even now when no one believes?" Isaiah's hand rests on his shoulder. "Now more than ever," he says, "because one day they'll ask who warned them." The young man writes, his words burning brighter than any flame. "Behold, the nations gather against Zion, not by chance, but by design. For everything hidden comes into the light." The prince covers his face. "I don't want to know we were warned," he moans. Isaiah's gaze is unflinching. "But you were," he says. "And nothing is more terrible than realizing it too late." The wind returns, gentle now, carrying the scent of wet fields. The disciples feel a strange peace, as if the worst has passed and something new is stirring. The scribe dips his pen. "What shall I call this day?" he asks. Isaiah looks to the sky, where the sun promises another cycle. "Call it the day between ruin and seed," he says, "because everything that fell has made space for what will be born." The prince's tears fall, but they're not just sorrow. "If we choose to begin again," he whispers, "if we listen this time," Isaiah's voice is soft but sure. "Then it won't have been in vain," he says. "Then the prophecy will have fulfilled its true purpose, not to destroy, but to reveal." People draw closer, some touching the prince's shoulder, others bowing their heads. There are no more excuses. No time to waste. The scribe writes the final lines, the wind turning the pages as if eager to tell the whole story. "May I write that it's over?" he asks. Isaiah's hand rests on the wet ink. "No," he says, "because prophecy doesn't end when everything is fulfilled. It ends when the answer of every heart begins." The sun rises higher, and in the silence, one question remains. What will we do with everything that's been revealed? This is where we close, but it's not the end. It's a beginning, a call to choose, to plant new seeds in the ashes. If this story has moved you, if you're ready to carry its truth, click those videos on your screen to keep exploring with the untold scriptures. Subscribe, like, and share. Because these stories aren't just history, they're a mirror for our souls. May God speak to you, even in the silence before the revelation.